I caught my wife cheating during her summer architectural symposium in another city. I hired a private investigator, gathered all the evidence, and vanished without a single clue to my whereabouts before her return. My name is Victor Stone, but friends always call me VS, never Vidya. There's always some tactless drunk or ignorant boor who will familiarly say, "So Vidya, what do you do?" I answer, I'm creating a tiny but devilishly useful device that police can use from 15 meters to scan for explosives in cars. They've even started attaching them to city surveillance cameras. That usually makes them shut up. But just in case you didn't get it, such a device does not exist. Evidently, I have zero patience for foolishness. Lie to me and it will only get worse. I'm a simple, uncomplicated guy. I appreciate straightforwardness in life and find deep satisfaction in my work. I work as a structural engineer for a major national corporation with branches across the continent. I have friends, and while I don't drink much, I occasionally enjoy a craft beer. Truthfully, I prefer cheesecakes, but that's my inner struggle. If I give in, I'll gain weight, so I try to stay as fit as possible for my age. I used to fly my seaplane whenever I could, but having a wife and 2 young daughters took up too much time. Eventually, I sold the plane. It was just one of the compromises I willingly made over the years to have quality time with those who truly matter. I was happily married to Diana for 25 years. She's a high school art history teacher. Our 2 daughters are now in university. Stephanie is at Princeton in New Jersey, and her younger sister, Olga, is at Georgetown. I probably wouldn't have been able to afford their education, but luckily, my girls are driven and received impressive scholarships. We live in South Carolina, in an area known as the Quartz Belt, a hub around excellent Charleston universities. Surrounded by high-end tech and architectural firms, living and working here is a pleasure. I could tell you about the local Bluegrass Festival, but that would make me miss it. I was slightly disappointed when the girls chose northern colleges, but I understand. They need to broaden their horizons. Our daughters are amazing, intelligent, witty, charming young women with solid moral principles. I worry about their safety every day, but I trust their judgment. Seeing them grown and taking their first steps toward independence, my wife and I finally had time for ourselves. I was looking forward to this stage. I imagined coming home to a loving wife who would focus all her attention on me, and vice versa. I envisioned us reviving our connection, becoming newlyweds again. Dinners out, theater, movies, rediscovering each other. However, reality turned out to be less than ideal. I admit, looking back at that first year of the empty nest, I noticed Diana changing. Her interests were shifting. The change was gradual, but over time, it became more and more apparent. At first, I thought she was just blossoming, having been freed from parental duties. But eventually, I realized I was witnessing a significant transformation in her values and priorities. Diana teaches art history, but in her soul, she is a frustrated architect. As a young mother and teacher, she never had a chance. In the summer and every free hour, she dedicated time to design, but nothing grand has come of it yet. She submitted her essays and concepts to prestigious magazines, but only amassed a collection of rejection letters. I admit, I enjoy reading her texts, but as a designer, she hasn't progressed beyond formulaic and overly dramatic concepts. She has a romanticized idea of what an architect should be. I suspect she is more drawn to the idea of being a creator than the creative process itself. Still, if she's happy, I'm happy. For most of our marriage, Diana was part of various creative collaborations. These are groups of people who meet to give each other criticism, advice, and discuss work. Some seemed productive to me, others more like a mutual admiration club. Her latest group, the one where everything fell apart, had elements of both. They took turns hosting meetings at home, and during their gatherings, I tried to give them space. I tried to participate once, but Diana and a few others were against it, so I stopped. There were about 10 people in their collaboration, men and women. I liked some, I couldn't stand others. Half were unremarkable, and the other half made a strong impression. For example, Vanessa, who did historical building reconstruction and wrote scholarly articles. I read all her work and appreciated it. Polina is a fan of fantasy and magical castles. She's friendly and seems to write just for fun. Oleg took on the role of the group's know-it-all. His measured doses of snobbery were tolerable. And then there was Georgie. When I first met Georgie, all my internal alarms went off immediately. When I was introduced to him, he looked at me and asked, "So Vitya, what do you do for a living?" I glanced at my wife, who slightly frowned and shook her head. I simply replied, "I'm a structural engineer." Georgie responded with a smirk, or rather a sneer. I preferred to remain unobtrusive during their villanelles, but not out of earshot. I often sat in the next room, working quietly, or on the back terrace with the window open until they forgot I was nearby. I quickly noticed that when Georgie talked to Diana, they shared private jokes and a connection that irritated me. Sometimes he flattered her, and other times it seemed like he knew her inner thoughts in a way I didn't like. He referenced past conversations that seemed to be only between them. It was just a feeling, but I didn't like it. I told her about it. She dismissed it, and I decided not to press the issue. But she knew my opinion. Their meetings followed a routine. After work, they relaxed with wine. It was at this moment that I realized some of them were just role-playing. It happened in the middle of the spring semester, in early March, when the conversation shifted to the lifestyle of true creators. "Oh, well, you know, all great architects were absolute hedonists," one of them said. "They worked in the morning and drank, flirted, and rebelled in the evening. It relaxes the mind and opens it to new ideas." In fact, the most successful creators always had stormy, secret affairs. That's what truly motivated them, Georgie added. "Thank you, Georgie. You've clarified the core essence for me," I thought sarcastically. And then Diana's words hit me right in the gut. "Oh, absolutely. The intensity and the thrill of the unknown, the excitement of keeping it all a secret from everyone. That's where the real inspiration lies." Some giggled, others remained silent. I convinced myself it was just a joke, but I kept my ear to the ground. Maybe we should all have a night of unbridled passion and then each write their next great project. That was Oleg. I didn't know if he was joking or not. Vices are not the foundation for exceptional creations. Great stories are about humanity, compassion, and struggling with the mysteries of being, said Polina. I told you I liked her. Well, maybe if you cast the right spell, we can avoid all that fuss, said that jerk Georgie again. To their shame, some found it amusing. I doubted Polina and Vanessa were thrilled. They continued chatting about creative binges and affairs, and I kept listening. Then I caught an intriguing fragment. Has anyone else applied for the Summer Architectural Symposium in Indianapolis? Georgie asked. Oh, I've already sent in my documents. Fingers crossed that I get accepted. That was Diana, and I was hearing about it for the first time. 6 weeks of pure creativity and discussion. This could really change everything for me. Georgie immediately chimed in. I'm sure you'll be accepted. Your concepts have visibly improved over the last year. I applied too, although I'm not sure I'll get in. Seriously, Georgie, where did that modesty come from? My internal radars were going haywire. I didn't like what I was hearing, but at that moment, I still deeply trusted my wife. When you've been married that long, trust is the foundation. You don't ask yourself, is she plotting something? The thought doesn't even cross your mind. Marriage is a partnership. You just want her to find the success and happiness she deserves. Or so you think. And then everything collapses when you discover that your trust has been trampled. I had no intention of ruining the rest of my life by seeking a vengeful retribution against my unfaithful wife and her lover. My revenge was to take away the one thing she always relied on, the stable presence that supported, comforted, elevated, and motivated her. I was taking myself away. Georgie was not worthy prey. He won't be able to provide her with what she needs in the long run. Where will a 50-year-old single mother, post-divorce, find emotional stability and love? I no longer cared. Every few days, my private investigator sent me new photos, videos, and evidence of betrayal from the person who promised me loyalty above all else. The reports were hard to read, and the photos and videos were even more painful to watch. But the audio recordings were the hardest, especially when they discussed me. He constantly texts me about his blueprints and how wonderful the symposium is. He thanks me almost every day, she said with a laugh. He's a simpleton. Georgie joined the laughter. Keep him in the dark, treat him like a child, and you'll be free from his irritating presence. Let him enjoy himself for now. When I get back, I'm going to grab that boor by the throat for his accusations. How dare he suspect me of cheating? But yes, I'm taking a little vacation from our marriage, aren't I, darling? Or is there another woman sleeping in my bed every night? She chuckled. Maybe he suspects something, but I won't let him. I'm an architect, damn it, and all he does is drag me down with his schematics, microchips, and millimeter measurements. What does he even understand about big ideas? I considered various tactics for revenge, but realized that none of them would bring true satisfaction while my life remained intertwined with hers. There was only one way out. I began the process of distancing myself. I spoke openly with my boss, explaining everything. He understood me, having gone through something similar himself. He arranged my transfer to our company's office in Portland, Maine. I liked the idea. I knew colleagues there. They were professional, and I enjoyed their company. The city and the state also appealed to me. I arranged with movers to take half the furniture and all my personal belongings north. I took care of my car and contacted a lawyer to initiate the divorce. Financially, Diana had her own insurance and retirement account. I removed her name from all my assets and made the daughters the beneficiaries. I signed a quitclaim deed to the house, transferring ownership to her in exchange for no alimony from either side. She kept her car and was responsible for its insurance. I planned to deal with bank accounts and credit cards just before leaving, maintaining maximum secrecy. From that moment on, I focused on strengthening my resolve. I called her to ask how the symposium was going and to express my love. I knew that hearing her lies would solidify my certainty that my actions were right. She didn't disappoint. In less than 2 minutes, she responded enthusiastically, declared her affection, and rushed off to dinner. My private detective reported that Georgia was nearby, exchanging knowing glances and mocking gestures with her. This definitively confirmed my decision. She treated the whole situation as a joke, which only assured me of my rightness. After that, I switched to text messages, as I wasn't sure I could control my emotions on the phone. I texted her about magnificent days of fishing, when in reality, Jake and his wife were enjoying the trip I had paid for. They were having a great time. As the end of her 6-week symposium approached, I completed the final preparations. My friend, a realtor, gave me a for sale sign. I couldn't sell the house without her consent, especially since I had already transferred the rights to her. But she didn't need to know that detail. The sign was to be the first thing she would see. I changed the locks on the house to make it less welcoming. I selected a few photos from her trip, including clear frames from the video taken under Georgie's door, and printed a copy of the detective's report. I left all of it on the dining table so she would know. Everything was exposed. Most of my belongings had already been moved and stored. I only took 2 suitcases, a laptop, and my guitar. The guitar is sacred. I couldn't entrust something so valuable to anyone. Initially, I planned to leave in the morning, so she wouldn't be home. but I changed my mind. I wanted her to feel the pain immediately, while she could only wait and worry until her return. I sent her an email attaching 3 carefully selected photos of her and Georgie with a single sentence: divorce. I am divorcing you. I am divorcing you. I chose a picture where they were embracing almost intimately on the dance floor, and it was visible that her finger was bare of rings. The second photo showed them holding hands, entering Georgie's room. The third was a screenshot from the dorm video where her face was clearly visible. I calculated that she would see these images and it would ruin her last romantic night with Georgie while they frantically searched for the cameras that had already been removed. After that, I turned off my phone, leaving the house that had been our family home for many years. I felt a mix of pain, uncertainty, and newfound freedom. It was the most difficult, most questionable, and most liberating moment of my life. Essentially, my wife had died to me. The woman who was externally Diana turned out to be a stranger, someone I didn't recognize and didn't want to reconnect with. I was heading toward a new beginning, toward the unknown. Amidst the profound sense of loss, there was a strange sense of relief. The burden of deception, betrayal, and humiliation was lifted, if only temporarily. The price, half of my life, was now inaccessible. It was late, but my mind was racing. I drove about 150 kilometers on a quiet highway until I found a hotel. I wanted an authentic place with a real local breakfast. I found it and savored what might be my last plate of local pancakes for a long time. Sipping my coffee, I started to reconsider my route to Maine. I had 2 weeks before starting work. Why rush? I needed to calm my thoughts, come to terms with her betrayal, and let go of the past. I decided to drive slowly, enjoying the scenery, talking to people. This week would be my transition from the old life to the new. I wanted to saturate my senses, cleanse myself of the ugliness and mistakes of the past, and prepare for a clean slate. I spent the rest of the day walking through historic Savannah amidst the summer crowds. I watched the work of skilled craftsmen. I managed to find a room without a reservation. Only after a light dinner, settling in for the night, did my thoughts return to the broken marriage. At this time, she was probably returning home. I wondered how she would react, seeing the "for sale" sign and realizing her keys no longer worked. The next day, I headed north along the old roads of North Carolina, passing small towns and historical estates located along the rivers that flowed into the ocean. Before me was the only road leading to my future. I would follow this winding path that was taking me away from betrayal to a new chapter. I was sitting in a hotel room in downtown Richmond and finally turned on my phone. As expected, it was jammed with missed calls, emails, and messages. Most were from Diana, a few from friends. I read and listened to everything. Although it was difficult, it was a necessary step. At first, Diana tried to convince me that it's not what it looks like. These messages were sent from Indianapolis before she returned home and saw the photos and the detective's report. Meanwhile, friends were reporting that Diana was contacting everyone trying to find me. She was looking in the wrong place. Jake and his wife knew, but I decided not to disclose my location to the others. I would let them know once I settled in. I understood. I couldn't be a ghost forever. 2 calls worried me. From my daughters. Diana had contacted them, trying to find out where I was. I deliberately hadn't told them about my decision to leave their mother, as I wanted to do it face to face, but I couldn't let them worry. I spoke with my daughters, calmly explaining the situation. They were upset and couldn't believe their mother was capable of this. I sent them the same photos and the detective's report. After that, they swore not to tell their mother my whereabouts. There was another missed call. My lawyer informed me that Diana had been officially served with the divorce papers. Now, she knew I was serious. He also shared that a full set of photos, videos, and audio recordings from his 6-week symposium had been sent to Georgie's wife. There's your karma for Georgie. On the third day of my journey, I drove through northern Maryland and with great excitement reached New Jersey. In fact, I drove through New Jersey without stopping until I got to Connecticut. There, I spent several hours exploring historical coastal towns. I had no destination, but the architecture was so different from what I was used to in South Carolina that I felt refreshed both physically and emotionally. I even drove to Groton for an hour to try to see as many submarines as possible. These black fish are incredibly secretive. Looking at the shore, I recalled that when they refuel these nuclear subs, they cut the hull open to access the reactor, then weld it back shut. Was this a metaphor for my situation? Could Diana's betrayal, which ripped a hole in my heart, be the first step to restarting my life? Could I heal myself? Waking up the next day, I knew it would be the most difficult day. After a hearty breakfast, I headed to Princeton to talk to my older daughter, Stephanie. The drive took a short while, and I arrived at her dorm close to noon. We decided to postpone the serious conversation so she could pretend to be carefree for a couple of hours. She showed me the campus, then took me to the cafeteria, where she introduced me to her friends. These were exactly the kind of young people I wanted her to associate with. Friendly, thoughtful, supportive. On the way out, I pulled Stephanie's roommate aside and said Stephanie would have a tough day, asking her to look out for her. She replied, "Of course, Mr. Stone. She told us yesterday. We're all with her." Yes, my daughter chose her friends wisely. Stephanie and I spent several hours in her room, talking at length. I showed her the photos and let her listen to the audio recordings, things I never thought I'd show my child. Her emotions ranged between sadness and anger. "I can't believe Mom did that. Is she even the same person who raised us? What kind of disgusting person has she become?" I had to intervene, even though I understood her feelings. Stephanie, whatever she did, she's still your mother. And remember, she betrayed me, not you. Sorry, Dad, but she destroyed my only family. That concerns me too. I couldn't argue. In the evening, I gathered her friends, and we went out to dinner at the best place in town. I told stories about my college cafeterias, and it seemed to help them appreciate their current situation. I stayed at a local hotel, and the next morning, after breakfast, I gave Stephanie a tight hug with tears in my eyes and headed north to Georgetown to repeat the process with Olga. Stephanie must have warned Olga because her reaction was much more composed than her older sister's. There was still disappointment and anger, but less shock. She asked to see the evidence, and I showed it to her. Coincidentally, her mother called while we were talking. I gave Olga the universal sign, "I'm not here." I shook my head no and made a throat-slitting gesture. She understood. Olga was always the most level-headed. Then she did something I never expected. "Dad called last night, right? Is it true that you've become the kind of woman who cheats on her husband and lies about it? Have you started having casual encounters?" I was stunned. I wanted to scold her for that tone with her mother, but I couldn't deny the truth. "Do you hear me, Mom? You were with another man for 6 weeks while Dad sat alone at home? Was it worth it? Is it worth losing your marriage?" Wow, my daughter has a sharp tongue. Note to self, don't anger Olga. There wasn't much else to discuss. Olga told me that her mother mostly cried and tried to justify herself, but her daughter didn't believe her. Later, I treated Olga and her friends to Thai food. Like her sister, Olga chose her friends wisely. Dinner was pleasant. On the way back, one of her friends said, "Mr. Stone, Olga told us. She was very upset yesterday, but we supported her. Maybe you'll come again, and we'll treat you in our dining hall." That brought a laugh. "Well, maybe we'll find a better place," I said. That brought even more laughter. I stayed at a hotel for the night, had breakfast with my daughter, and on the 7th day of my journey, I continued north. I left Georgetown, and 2 hours later was south of Portland. My attention shifted from my almost ex-wife to my daughters. They were growing up to be strong, principled young women, and I couldn't be prouder of them. I realized they would get through this divorce better than I expected. And the hardest part was leaving these two gems without certainty about when we would see each other again. But as it turned out, my anxieties were for naught. I wasn't ready to face the reality of Portland yet, so upon reaching Portsmouth, New Hampshire, I turned west toward the White Mountains. I took the cable car up to the summit of Mount Washington. Standing there, looking out at the expanse, at the lower peaks and the green pine forests, feeling the cold Arctic wind, unusual for early August, I finally felt a reawakening. I was alone, but finally standing tall. I had gone through a transformation, leaving behind the problems and regrets of my old life, and was now ready to embrace a new chapter. I stood at an elevation, ready to begin. Everything I wanted was ahead. The next morning, I ordered a plate of tan cakes with real maple syrup. I was in maple syrup country now, and would be for many years to come. Rested and resolute, I got in my car and drove to Portland. I arrived mid-afternoon. I contacted my new boss to announce my arrival. I was already familiar with half the office staff, and I was greeted warmly. It was comforting, the first cheerful, genuine faces I had seen in a week. My boss, Henry, gathered everyone for an introduction. I quickly looked over the workspace. In the evening, we went out for dinner. I thought it would be a restaurant, but to my surprise, we ended up at Henry's house, grilling steaks. I know you're supposed to eat lobsters in Maine, but there's still time for that. More important was reintegrating into society while enjoying good meat and excellent local beer. They asked about my story, what brought a Southerner to Maine? I told my story, omitting the graphic details, but explaining enough for them to understand. I concluded with a small request. I might be a bit irritable in the coming weeks. That's not my usual character, but I have a lot to process. If I snap, please tell me to cool down. I need a little gentle pushback. Unexpectedly, all the women hugged me and kissed me on the cheek, and all the men hugged my shoulders. "We're here for you, VS," was all they said. It was all I needed. Later, settled in my hotel, I turned my phone on again. Both daughters sent supportive messages. They must have shared my number with their friends, because I received about 10 more messages from young people thanking me for dinner and promising to support my daughters. These kids are simply wonderful. Several friends continued to text, and I decided to reach out to everyone to explain the situation and stop their worrying. I didn't reveal my location. That would come later. I simply told them why I left, despite their initial reluctance to believe. I sent them the same 3 photos I sent Diana and said I had more dirt if they needed proof. I saw no reason to protect her from her own decisions. I tried and it didn't work. Let the truth come out. I received messages of love and support from each of them and promised to stay in touch. My ideas about becoming a ghost were pipe dreams. Too many people cared about me, and that's a good thing. I reviewed the remaining messages from Diana and listened to the missed calls. Eventually, she confessed, though her confession was mixed with strange outbursts of anger. She managed to blame me for her actions and for everything that happened. This is simply ridiculous. I thought. I sent her a message that I would call her tomorrow around noon. It had to happen sooner or later. Let's just say the conversation was far from pleasant. She alternated between blame, guilt, and denial. She was sorry. Georgie's influence was too strong. I was stifling her. It was my fault because I worked too much. She even had the audacity to claim that nothing serious happened between them. They were just fooling around. I nearly laughed when she tried to convince me she was just seeking creative inspiration. She even accused me of turning the daughters against her, even though her own actions handled that without my help. When she finally fell silent, I stated plainly, she conspired with Georgie to betray me. She resisted my attempts to save the marriage. She committed betrayal, and now she faces the consequences. I was no longer interested in the whys. When I hung up, she was still crying and begging for forgiveness. I was done with her. I knew too much. I found a simple but cozy 2-bedroom apartment in an old building close to the office. I figured walking wouldn't hurt. Initially, I thought it was temporary, but my opinion quickly changed. Living simply in the city, without the concerns of a large house, with a small coastal cottage for weekends, seemed like a good plan. And then I thought, why a cottage? I'll buy a boat, moor it in the harbor, and that will be my sanctuary. By the time I thought all this through, autumn had arrived. I thought I would lead a lonely life, but that wasn't the case. I now spend more time with my daughters than when we lived in South Carolina. They visit for weekends every month, often with friends. The apartment is buzzing with life for those 36 hours, and I usually treat them to dinner. As soon as they leave, I crave the silence, but I miss them as soon as they're gone. Surprisingly, several friends have already visited me, and others plan to come when the weather improves. I live alone, but I don't feel lonely. I've made new friends at work and in my hobbies. The sailing community here is very active. I've met intriguing women, but I'll remain restrained and decent until the divorce is finalized. Although the divorce will soon be official, Diana still tries to contact me. She never truly repents, preferring to downplay the situation. Everyone does this. It means nothing, Diana says. But it does mean something. Intimacy has weight, and deception and manipulation mean even more. I thought about explaining this to her, but people change, and I no longer see the point. In truth, my life is not completely separate from hers. With 2 daughters and many mutual friends, complete estrangement is unlikely. Nevertheless, 1,000 kilometers between us means I no longer live with the daily pain of rejection and betrayal. She used to be the center of my life until I ceased to be in hers. Now I'm charting my own course and creating my own future. Several positives have come out of this situation. First, I like living here. I'm experiencing my first winter in Maine, and it's a shock, but if others can handle it, so can I. The early darkness makes indoor gatherings cozier and brighter. I've started looking for a boat and found a mooring spot near the city. I look forward to spring, when I can work on the rigging and varnishing. The local restaurants are good, the breweries are fantastic, and the people are genuine. There is diverse music, dances to learn, and I'm still discovering new things. I believe my life will improve. Has my heart completely healed? Not yet. But time heals wounds, and I am confident in the better life that awaits me. Oh, and by the way, Georgie's wife turned out to be as old-fashioned as I am. She kicked him out and filed for divorce. Worse, Diana and Georgie still haven't been published, haven't secured a single architectural project.